My guest this week operates in a space where emotions run high and opinions run very deep. Housing affects all of us, and few people understand it better than Marian Finnegan. Now CEO of Sherry FitzGerald, she brings a calm, data-driven perspective to one of Ireland's most debated issues. In our chat, we talk about leadership under scrutiny, staying grounded in a fast-moving market, and how to bring clarity when everything feels uncertain. Tune in to hear about the moment that changed everything for her. Before that, here's a quick word from our sponsor.
Before we get started, a quick word about our sponsors, Philip Lee, LLP. Great businesses aren't built on theory, they're built on experience, judgment, and the courage to lead through change. As a leading law firm, Philip Lee supports clients through complex, legal, and regulatory challenges, helping businesses move forward with clarity and confidence. With offices in Dublin, Cork, London, and New York, they support clients wherever business happens. Find out more at philiplee.ie.
Housing is one of the most complex and emotionally charged challenges in Ireland today. We all feel it, whether it's buying, renting, watching prices, or trying to make sense of what comes next. It's also a space defined by pressure, scrutiny, and constant debate. But when it clicks, it can transform lives, communities, and the economy. My guest today is Marian Finnegan, a leading voice at the heart of Ireland's property landscape for close to 30 years, bringing clarity and insight into how we understand the market. Now CEO of Sherry FitzGerald, Marian has seen the industry from every single angle: economist, advisor, strategist, and leader. Marian, you're very welcome to Business Plus Talks, which we're delighted to be partnering on with Philip Lee. So before the bright lights kicked in, I believe way back in the day, you were in academia, you're lecturing, I think, in college, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think I probably were one of those students that I loved college. So when I went in there, I didn't want to leave. So when I'd finished, I did a degree in economics and Italian, started off with a few subjects. Italian,
nice.
Sure, that helps me with my holidays, I think. And finished my degree. I did my master's in economics. I loved the quantitative side and the logical side of economics.
Was it urban that you were lecturing in? Was it urban economics?
Well, macro. I was studying urban economics as a thought process to moving towards a PhD. I initially started working in UCG, and we had a sister relationship with the Shannon College of Hotel Management, so they got their degree out of UCG, so I taught students there, which were fantastic, great crack. Then I moved to UL, and I was finishing the first year of a 2-year contract, thinking about a PhD, speaking to one of the professors there. Urban economics was my area that I had done my master's in, and there was no data at all. Property at that point had zero. Very, very little. And a little tiny ad appeared in the Irish Times, tiny ad, looking for an economist to work for a property company called Sherry FitzGerald. And I remember turning to my then boyfriend, now husband, going, who the hell are Sherry FitzGerald? Because I lived in Galway and they weren't in Galway. And I met with them, a very, very impressive bunch. Mark FitzGerald at the time talked about setting up a research function. They were about to develop their commercial brand and recognized they needed data. And I thought this was my opportunity to get the data. My plan was 1 to 2 years, and now it's 30 years this May.
Look at you now. So you said Galway, yeah? Which part of Galway are you from?
Barnet, just outside the city.
Oh, lovely, yeah. I used to go to Roundstone, Conmar quite a lot.
Further back, yeah.
Yeah, so, and what were you like growing up? Were you sort of curious, analytical? So with all the data that wasn't there, were you looking for it?
I think you develop differently when you get into your 20s. I think I was a tomboy. I was the middle child of 2 boys, one older, one younger. Okay. So I was competing with them constantly. So I was and I probably was relatively quiet in lots of ways. Right. I think my personality has altered over time. I think my interest I was always interested in maths. That was for sure. It was in school. I was very competitive with maths.
But you can deal with men well.
Yeah, well, I'm used to them. So I'm surrounded by them.
Any sort of early influencers in terms of mentors or even family that you would have looked to in terms of going, maybe they I think they've got it going on.
I think I had a very close relationship with one of my uncles who would have been quite academic, his approach to life, and I often liked listening to him because he'd have conversations about wider issues in life that maybe not everybody else was discussing. And I think when I started studying economics, there was a couple of the lectures that I really thought what it grasped me first of all, you couldn't do economics in a girls' school at the time. we didn't have economics as a course. So I went straight into college with
Okay.
the original intention of, this is back in the 70s, 80s, I was studying law. So I started with law and took economics as a second subject, and then just fell in love with economics and dropped law. But I think that sort of analytical approach to life attracted me. And there was a couple of lectures that when they were explaining stuff in a lecture hall, took the bizarre and made it simple, or took the complex and made it simple. And that I latched into that. And I decided I want to lecture as a result of that. And that was where
I'm going to love you, because that is exactly how I see people who I respond very well to, in terms of cut through all the clutter and make it really simple to follow. And actually, you said you were good at maths, right? I wouldn't say I was, but when a teacher told me a story about maths and the equations and how it worked, I got it straight away. But before that, I was like, what am I doing? I don't get this. But it's how you're taught, isn't it? Or how someone shows you the way.
Completely. And I think I've tried to take that through in every stage of whatever part of my career that I was working in, is that if you're trying to explain the housing market, or you're trying to explain a complex
Make the complex
thing,
simple.
Make it simple, and make it some people have a view that I sat in lectures where people were talking and I didn't understand them. But if you can take their knowledge and bring it down into something that you can get somebody else to understand, that's...
So next month, Marian, you're 30 years in Sherry FitzGerald. That is very impressive and also quite rare.
Not in our company, actually. Funnily enough, I'm a newbie at 30. We have people. I was at a party last week and I introduced myself as one of the newbies.
With 30 years under your belt.
Yeah, because that person had 40. He was there from the very beginning, 40. We're now 44 years in existence, and he'd been there for 43 of those 44. There is something funny about our company. There is a phenomenal culture in there. When my
there has to be, right?
Yeah, there is. And that comes from the top. When my now 17-year-old was 3, he said, 3 or 4, he says, I think I'd like to do what you do, Mum. And I said, you mean be an economist? And he went, no, work with your friends. So he obviously thought I went into work every day for the crack. And I think that is part of the journey. Now, my job has changed a lot over those 30 years, and it always remained interesting. I think if you've got something, if you are passionate about something, for me, and my family would say this, Sherry Fitz is me. It's not... it was never hardship to go in every day. I enjoy getting up and going into work.
What's sort of kept you there? Is it that it feels like you're just working with like-minded people? And
first of all, there's a beautiful culture in there in terms of collaboration, support. We have all a collective vision, and it, we've been recently acquired 3 or 4 years ago. 4 years ago this year. And I think one thing that probably they would say about us and we would say about our culture is that we all believe we are Sherry FitzGerald, and that is probably what makes it unique. So we're not doing this for an external entity or for a brand. We're doing it for ourselves.
So you started as the sort of economist in there. Then about, I think it was in 2019, you became MD, was that right?
Yeah.
And then last September, you're at the new CEO.
Yes.
So how did that, so did you always see yourself at the top at one point?
No interest at all, to be honest. I absolutely adored my job as economist. So when I went in, my first role was to collect data, develop data sets around the market and grow those. So I went to the UK, met with commercial firms, put a plan in place, developed a team. And we worked a lot on the research and advisory side. And I was spokesperson for the group. I had a vision for where I wanted to see our team.
But you're also, the first female to lead the company, right?
I am, yes. Yeah.
Well done.
Thank you. As CEO, and we had female MDs before, but as CEO. And then in 2019, I was approached by the then CEO to look at, with a view to moving into the MD role. And I went, no interest, happy where I am, thanks a million, good luck with that. Twice, because I really did enjoy the job that I was doing. So the agreement was I would take on the role, but I wasn't giving up my little toe in the water with research, which proves harder over time. And then once I started on that road, I realized this is something I really enjoy. And that's probably when I had my eyes opened to other opportunities.
Okay. And Marian, there's always a sort of a pivotal moment I find in people's careers, or a conversation that sort of changes how they either view their career or other. Was there a particular moment during your journey or would stand out, let's say?
I think, so I took over as MD in, I think it was October of 2019, and the 12th of March 2020, COVID hit.
Great time for everyone, wasn't it?
Fabulous. And I remember sitting there going, because obviously for property, we are a transactional business. So it is houses in, money in, houses out. deal achieved during COVID, the possibility that we would have zero income was very live. The possibility that we were in danger was very live, because there isn't a body of funds there sitting. There's no recurring income. So we had to be very strategic very quickly. And also our company had evolved a lot in the previous 7 or 8 years. We had acquired new premises. We'd taken on a lot of additional responsibilities and debt with that. So I had to restructure very quickly and make the business ready for the next step. And that was a very frightening and exciting 3 months. I had a lot of support from our CEO, from our chairman at the time, from the CFO, looking at what the next steps would be. And when I felt that we had made the right decisions and we were on the path to success and recovery, that was the pivotal moment. I went, this is really fascinating. This is where it gets really exciting. This is where you can be impactful and continue to support the company in the way that I wanted to.
And as like through the stages, Marian, of your career, has your leadership style also changed? Now that you're at the top, let's say, like from economist to MD to sort of CEO, it obviously does evolve.
I think I led a very small team in the research grouping, but I worked with the broader team in the company. I think I've always had a very collaborative approach towards leadership, and I believed if you lead by example, and that's the approach I've taken in every role that I've had. When I moved into a lot of the work that I was doing as an economist was focused on the commercial side. So I would have been much more familiar with that side of the business and the people, whereas I worked with the residential crew, it was slightly removed. So I had a whole different journey to go on when I started as MD, to get to know them, to understand their day-to-day workings as well as I did on the commercial side. So I think it was about just really being as open and as collaborative as possible, and being willing to learn what they knew and I didn't, and vice versa. And that's continued into this role today.
Okay. Dare I ask what the future of housing looks like?
Oh, look at the big thorny question. Look, I think I'm probably more confident than I have been for a while. I felt that from 2015, this is the first time we ever had a Minister for Housing ever, was in 2015. A very strong minister at the time, Simon Coveney. And at that point, he built a plan for the future of housing. And there was a lot of very good initiatives in that plan, but they didn't all come to pass. There was road blocks along the way. And I've probably moved up and down in terms of my optimism in the last 10 years. But I think in the last 12 months, I've seen a really positive step forward where you start and see the policies have an impact. The policies are good. They're coming together. But we probably had the biggest housing crisis in Western Europe. And therefore fixing it was never going to be easy. And we're tiny.
Have we always had that though, for such a long time now?
We've had a very volatile housing market with a lot of challenges. And some of that comes from your size. So we are a sparsely populated country. We are a tiny country, so economies of scale are quite limited. And we are at the ebb and flow of what happens in global economics. So when something challenging happens and hits the world economy, we rock very heavily. So it's always going to be difficult to get stability in that type of market.
Yeah. And I mean, like rental versus sort of even purchases, it's all the sort of same, isn't it? Supply
they're
and demand.
very, very similar markets. And people talk a lot about, we need to fix the housing crisis because we need to build more homes for first-time buyers. But very few people really talk about the rental side. And it's a big bone of contention that I have, because I think to get housing right, we have to get the rental market, first of all, stable. It's far from stable. We are seeing positive movements now with the latest legislation, particularly in terms of the PRS sector. We would like to see the interest rate cycle supporting that. Let's see what happens now, as inflation is a pressure point. But both areas of the market. And then there's the whole other rest of the market. So what about the people that want to trade down but have nowhere to go to? So we've had a particular focus in government policy for a decade on first-time buyers. It's time to broaden that and get it right for the wider market.
You touched on pressure there. You're probably constantly under pressure or scrutiny around everything going on within the housing sector.
Yeah, I mean, I think
is that hard to deal with at times?
I think I'm used to it, to be honest. I think we are, I always say that we're the prefects in school. So if the prefect is caught smoking, then everyone's in big trouble and they're going to get there. So we're the biggest, and we we have a very strong trusted brand, so we have to be seen that our voice in that industry is the voice of the industry, and also the voice that is going to be as impactful as possible. So it is important that we get it right. We're as strong as the weakest link in that we're a big company now. We're not like a small company. So
was it 360 people? Is that right?
More now, because we have our recent acquisition of Knight Frank brings us to a higher level. So I think we probably have closer. We had 330. We're probably 450 now in fully employed.
Sizable, right? Yeah. And so with all that going on there, Marian, what sort of keeps you grounded? I mean,
what keeps me grounded? Well, I think my colleagues, because you wouldn't get any notions in our place for sure. My family are very important to me. I have 3 children and a wonderful husband, and that keeps me focused.
And any imposter moments that would
100,000 of them. I don't think anyone that ever has
am I right for this job? Am I doing a good job?
100%. In every step I've ever taken in my career, you always have imposter syndrome. And you sit in a room like this and you go for a moment, okay, why did I agree to do this? But I think if you don't have imposter syndrome, you're kidding yourself.
And also, I think I love the transitions that you've gone through to get there, but also that's the honesty in terms of, you know, that what life throws at you, because you're balancing life and work
completely.
Quite a lot.
Yeah.
Do you have a good switch off after work, sort of o'clock stops?
Yeah, I mean, I think at different stages of my career, I had different priorities. So when my children were small, I reduced my working week to 4 days, and I focused on having one full day that I could do all the bits that you need to do with your children are small. And then as they got older and they wanted me less, which is what happens in a natural cycle with kids, I went back to working full time. I try and prioritize physical exercise as much as I can, because that's what clears my head. Yeah. And if I can go for a good long walk and get to the gym a few times a week, that sorts me out.
Digital transformation is a big part of, I know, what Sherry FitzGerald does, actually. And weirdly, you guys were one of my clients way back in the day when I was in the agency land. And we were looking at My Sherry Fitz at the time, where it was that little portal into how you just manage
transactions.
But you're doing an awful lot of that, though, aren't you, within the company?
Well, I think we know that. I think, first of all, if you look at what does Sherry FitzGerald stand for, the most important asset we have is our people. But our people need to be supported, and that's where I see the digital transformation coming through. So there are various ways that we can do that. My Sherry Fitz was brought about largely to bring transparency to the industry, but also to help the productivity
Which was great
levels.
And needed, by the way, Marian.
Hugely
massively needed.
Yeah. So now you can register on My Sherry Fitz as a purchaser or as a vendor, and you've got absolute clarity in terms of where the bidding process is. There would have been, I mean, back in the day, if you went back to Ireland of the 1970s, there was always a question mark, is there somebody bidding against me?
I was going to say, a friend of mine is in that position at the moment, and you don't know actually what's going on. So if you're dealing with, I won't call out any real estate agent, but you're kind of going, is this a real offer? What's going on behind the scenes? And when it comes to a house purchase of all things, there's a lot of pressure and necks on the line when you're kind of going, really need to get this place.
I think one thing that everyone needs to recognise, whether they can see the bids coming through on something like My Sherry Fitz, or where they're talking to an agent on the ground, we're a heavily regulated industry. There is nobody going to risk, to the best, I would say, hands up, nobody would risk the brands that they work with for a fake buyer. Those days are well and truly gone.
And gazumping and all that.
Well, gazumping is a challenge, because just within the perspective of an industry, if you're selling a property and a bigger bid comes in, the agent has to bring that to the vendor. It's ultimately the vendor's choice whether they accept it or not. Nobody wants to do that. But if you're the vendor, you want to know if there's a higher bid. It's not ideal, it's not perfect, but that actually is the rules of the game, if you like, in terms of the process. But actually, the transparency of whether or not there is another bidder on the line, that should never be in doubt. And actually, every single bid for a property should be recorded by the agent, either electronically or physically, written down in terms of a database. And anyone can access that through the PSRA. If you're ever in doubt, there is a regulated industry now. So I think it's probably something that isn't talked about enough. It is. I am so impressed with the work the PSRA do in terms of general guidance in terms of the industry.
2011 or 12, was it?
Yes, around that time. The date now escapes me, but around that time. But it has been transformational for the industry.
And within My Sherry Fitz, or can't you find solicitors as well, and sort of the full suite of, let's say, self-managed aspect of buying a house?
We do try and provide people with all the information that they need. Now, the one of the biggest challenges with buying property is that it takes so long. And a lot of that feeds back into the challenges around the old structure structure of conveyancing in Ireland, where we have a particularly challenging environment there. No fault of anyone's, it's just the way it is. But work needs to be done on that in terms of progressing that to the modern age.
But you seem to be leading the way, Marian, in terms of that innovation space as well.
We try to. I mean, we're not unique, but we do try to lead the way as much as possible in that area.
Yeah. This is a very simple question, but I think you can answer it very well. What excites you about the work?
I'm always curious. And I think there is never a point in my career where we haven't been involved in something, trying to work with government policy, work with our clients to find out what was going to happen next. So it is quite an exciting journey when you're dealing with a very dynamic market like the housing or the commercial market is equally as interesting. So I think it's never quiet. Whatever happens on Monday won't happen on Friday. It's a different day every day you go in. So I think it's just a very dynamic place to work.
And you can switch off when you're at home. You're just like, that's it. Or are you constantly on?
I don't switch off. I'd say if you asked any of my family, they'd say I'm not great at switching off. But actually, I don't think it impacts me negatively in that I think I have FOMO, if I'm honest. But I think it's just me. I think I evolve into that. But equally, I would have no difficulty of saying I'm gone now because there's a play on I need to see in the school or whatever. Yeah. I would have no difficulty in blending those lives. I don't think if you have a very hard stop, I stop at 5 and this is it. I think if something happened and I needed to leave at 1 o'clock, nobody raises eyebrows. And that's the way we try to approach the entire team as much as possible, is to create that flexibility, because property is always on. And if somebody is selling your family home, you want to know you can get them at 8 o'clock because you've been busy all day. And our guys answer the phone. But therefore, don't come in the morning, guys, drop the kids to school or get that gym class in, because that's really important too. So if you're always on, you have to have the flexibility to balance it yourself.
Yeah. And do you say, are you fairly scheduled and meticulous about the week ahead then? Yes. When you're planning it? Yeah, I aim, because our head office is in Sandyford and I live in Clontarf, it's a bit of a commute every day. So I try and aim. You're a Northsider? I'm actually a West Sider because I'm from Galway, but I live in the North Side. I try and not be in the office 2 days a week. So that could be meetings in with clients or with my team in the network, or working from home, so that I'm not spending that 2 hours in the car, and then try and fit in as much of free time and exercise at the weekends. And it is down to the weekends, unfortunately, at this point. So you look at your role now versus The Economist. You did The Economist role for, was it 24 years nearly? Mm-hmm. So if someone introduced you as the CEO versus The Economist,
I'm very happy to be called The Economist. Yeah, absolutely.
I was going to say, which sits better?
Either. It doesn't bother me in the slightest. I mean, I still presented a lot at industry events like Irish Home Builders Conference in 2 weeks' time. And I don't care what they introduced me as, because I'm very proud to have been The Economist.
Regardless.
Yeah. And actually, it's a title I really like, actually. I think I'm actively encouraging my 17-year-old to become an economist. He's listening to me half. I keep saying it's a really interesting career. You really should do this.
But you're the voice behind the company too, aren't you? Like you're
I have
on
been.
A fair few news talks, etc.
Yeah. I it's a role I evolved into, and I do enjoy it.
And before we sort of get on to a few personal questions, but the why behind the work is quite evident. Do you see yourself in Sherry Fitz for a long time to come?
I do. Yeah, I do. I mean, I don't know. I'm not one of these. I probably am. I'm a lifer in Sherry Fitz. To me, I live and breathe it in terms of the company. And my now 20-something-year-olds told me that they're leaving home if I retire. So I think there's a good indication of what it's like. I'm very passionate about the company. So I do see myself as a lifer. Now, look, that could change. But as it stands now, I have no plans to be anywhere else.
I don't think so. So any books that have shaped you?
Oh God, now you really asked me the hard questions. Let me think.
Or are you a podcaster?
I'm not really a podcaster. I listen to podcasts, but I'm not. It's not something that I do a huge amount. I think I'm probably not great on reading inspirational books that lead me to the next level. And I'm trying to think of the name of one book that I did read that made me help my behavior. I think I've read quite a few books on human behavior, where I think
psychology is brilliant, isn't it?
Fantastic. If I was to go back and do another degree, that's the one I would do. And I think if we can find something that I probably don't think we were ever really open to when I was going through college and school, and it's a big regret that I think our children should be taught a lot more about, is that we're not all the same. And how I respond to
boring
something,
if it were, wouldn't it?
it would. But how I respond to something could be completely different to how you respond to it. So I need to tune into your behaviors. And I think while I haven't done enough reading in that area, it's an area I'm really interested in. And I genuinely feel if I did retire early, that's what I would do.
Yeah, I was speaking to Joanna Guilfoyle from Vodafone recently, and that response mechanism in terms of responding with intent, but also you're basing on the people that you're dealing with there and then. You can't react one way than you would to one person than you would to another. Like as you say, you're very unique. But isn't that, I think that's the real like joy in the job as well.
Yes.
That no two are the same. And you have to play the part in front of you to be able to get the best out of them.
100%. And I think in my early career, I worked with fellow economists who have, we think alike. We have a way of dealing with things. Everything for us was about, what does the information tell us? What are the facts? What can I yearn from those facts? And then when I started working a lot more with the people that are on the sales ground, they're all about emotion. They are about bringing the emotion into the process and really understanding what other people are feeling at that time and actually assessing them so they can determine how far they're going to go in terms of sales process. So it's a very different skill set. And often people who are maybe more on the academic side close the door, let me figure this out myself. Whereas people that are more on the sales side, talk to me, let's figure it out together. So I have to blend those two. The second wasn't my natural instinct. Why are these people ringing me all the time? And figure it out yourself. And I've learned that there's just different methods for different people, and then I need to bend with that and learn from them as well.
There you go. I think you do learn from everybody else, don't you?
Yeah.
But I'd imagine then, if for you, do you find it a real challenge, but in a good way, when stuff lands on your desk that is a little bit in turmoil, let's say, or that you need to sort of address quite quickly?
I mean, I think I can respond quickly, but I prefer to have time to deliberate.
I was going to say, take a breath and go, okay.
Give me a minute. Let me think about this.
Yeah.
And the guys are now used to I know you like this in writing. Yes, please send it to me in writing. I'll read it because I think I absorb better reading things. So I like to read, think, and then go with my response.
Love it. And any, Marian, habits that you rely on to sort of maybe reset, or the ways we all have our kind of little perks and ways of doing things. Do you have any yourself that you look to as okay, I need to just think about this, or I need to go out for a quick walk? You mentioned it there as well.
Walking is my clearing. Must be anytime I've ever anything to worry about or to figure out, I go for a walk, have a think about it. I do need to separate myself from people if I'm trying to figure something out and figure it out myself. So I think what I will do is I'll shut the door or I'll go for a walk and figure it out and I would have a very loyal group of colleagues and friends that I can ask X that question because they're going to know how to.
I was just going to ask you, so advice that you receive, who do you go to for really good sort of outsider advice to sort of go, that's a little bit different. Didn't think about that. Yeah,
I mean, I think, I've got a wide field of people, both economists that have worked with me in the past that we can assess, what do you think of this, what do you think of that. Our former chairperson, Mark FitzGerald, speaks to me every day. So he would be the founder of the company. And
he's still involved, yeah?
He is involved. He's a non-executive.
Isn't he Garrett's son?
Garrett FitzGerald's son, yes.
I only clocked that about an hour ago, I think it was.
Yeah, he would have been somebody, particularly, I think, when I took over the role as MD, that he was a guiding hand rather than in any way trying to control the situation. And he remains a confidant.
So you'd lean on him a fair bit?
I would, particularly in the early days, I think, when I took over and we were dealing with the challenges in the company. I've got a phenomenal HR director in the company who is the person I go to with every people problem that we have, because she is a really straight talker and a straight thinker in terms of a challenge. And when you're dealing with a group, expanding group of people, getting the people piece right is very, very important.
So a good few levers that you can pull on when if needed. Yeah. So Marian, you might know that we have a question for you, before we wrap up. It's from our last guest, Mary Sadler from Cool Swan. And I think it's a pretty damn good question, okay? So here it goes. What is your emotional North Star? And I can tell you, just for example, she heavily relies on trust as a key sort of compass indicator.
Mine is probably not that different. I think I typically go with my gut. So if I walk in to interview somebody, or if I am being faced with a business decision, my first response to that is typically where I end up. I think you can meet a person, whether it is to hire them or to work with them, and know within the first 5 minutes, is this going to work? Now, you're not always right, but you're right 90% of the time. Yeah. So your gut in terms of, can I work with this person, or can I transact with this person in any which way, is I think I trust my gut. And your first instinct, something doesn't feel right, stop.
It's not right. Yeah,
pause and work out and find out why it doesn't feel right. So that is ultimately trust. You're trusting yourself and you're trusting your instincts. And I think if you trust your gut and your instincts, you won't go far wrong.
Brilliant answer. And any question that you would like to then throw at the next guest?
Who's the poor unsuspecting person? Gosh, I hadn't thought of that one. Listen, I think probably for anybody who's leading a business, I suppose...
Like health has kicked in a lot, actually quite a lot across the board. Or like, let's say, what does success look like for you? And it's Marian's rarely the money.
I don't think it would be for a lot.
Either people or the legacy that you're going to leave behind, whether that's family. So there's a good variety of answers that I've come across.
Yeah, I think maybe for somebody leading a business, so what would they ideally like to be said about them the day they walk out the door? Because I think that would be very telling.
That would be very telling indeed. Marian, thanks a million for popping on. You bring a lot of clarity to complexity, and something that I massively buy into, and I love it. But also it's what stands out behind your leadership too. Your journey from, I think, economist to CEO quietly reflects your consistent growth and the intent behind what you're doing. And you know what? Leadership isn't always loud. You've mentioned that quite a good few times over it. I think it's steadily built over time. Thanks again for joining us, and thanks for everyone listening.
Thank you very much.
A quick word about our sponsors, Philip Lee, LLP. Great businesses aren't built on theory. They're built on experience, judgment, and the courage to lead through change. As a leading law firm, Philip Lee supports clients through complex, legal, and regulatory challenges, helping businesses move forward with clarity and confidence. With offices in Dublin, Cork, London, and New York, they support clients wherever business happens. Find out more at philiplee.ie.